The stars around Kepler Station burned with the light of plasma fire. Massive alien warships hung in space like metal predators, their dark hulls blocking out the distant sun. They had been attacking for 3 days now, and the human station was losing. Admiral Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the battle through the main screen. His forearms moved across the control panels with practiced ease. The Vorthok commander had destroyed dozens of worlds for his empire. This human outpost would be just another victory to add to his record. Status report. Zethkar ordered his weapons officer. The human shields are down to 30%. Admiral, their defensive platforms are nearly destroyed. We count 7 evacuation ships fleeing the system. Zethkar's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. These humans were even weaker than his intelligence. Reports had suggested. When the Vorthok Empire first encountered humanity 5 years ago, they had seemed promising. Young species often showed spirit before accepting their place under Vorthok rule. But this resistance was pathetic. The station was small compared to Vorthok military bases. It housed maybe 50,000 humans, mostly scientists and their families. The humans had built it to study the strange energy readings from this system's dead star. Now it would become another Vorthok outpost, and the humans would serve as workers if they surrendered quickly. Incoming transmission from the station. Admiral, his communications officer announced. Put it through. The face of a human female appeared on screen. She looked tired and afraid, just as Zethkar expected. Her name was Commander Sarah Chen, according to his files. Admiral Zethkar, she said, her voice shaking slightly. We are ready to discuss surrender terms. There are no terms, Zethkar replied coldly. You will surrender unconditionally. Your people will be relocated to work camps. Your technology will become property of the Empire. Commander Chen's face hardened. We have activated Retribution Protocol. I suggest you withdraw your fleet immediately. Translator buzzed as it worked on the unfamiliar term. Retribution Protocol. What is this human word game? The US Prometheus is en route. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. Zethkar stared at the blank screen for a moment, then began laughing. The sound was harsh and grating, like metal scraping against stone. Did this human just threaten us? He asked his bridge crew. One ship against the entire Third Fleet. His tactical officer, a young Vorthok named Krell, checked his screens. Admiral, our intelligence shows no human vessel named Prometheus in their known fleet registry. Of course not, Zethkar said, still amused. It is probably some cargo ship they have armed with mining lasers. These humans grow desperate. But even as he spoke, something nagged at the back of his mind. The human commander had seemed confident, almost calm when she mentioned this Prometheus. That was not the behavior of someone making empty threats. Continue the bombardment, he ordered. I want that station's shields down within 6 hours. If this mysterious ship arrives, we will destroy it and be done with this system. The Vorthok fleet resumed its attack. Energy beams lanced through space, striking the station's failing defensive barriers. Small explosions bloomed across the station's hull as the shields flickered and died in sections. Zethkar watched the destruction with professional satisfaction. He commanded over 200 ships, from massive battlecruisers to swift destroyers. The Third Fleet was one of the Empire's finest fighting forces. No human vessel could threaten them. His science officer approached, looking uncertain. Admiral, we are detecting some unusual energy signatures from the edge of the system. Elaborate. Long-range sensors show distortions in hyperspace. Something large is moving toward us, but the readings are ... strange. Zethkar's good mood faded slightly. How large? Unknown, sir. The distortion pattern is unlike anything in our databases. Whatever is creating it, the energy output is massive. The Admiral considered this information. Perhaps the humans had allies they had not disclosed. Some species were foolish enough to protect weaker ones, though it usually ended badly for them. Keep monitoring. Alert me immediately if anything enters the system. Over the next 2 days, the siege continued. Kepler Station's defenses crumbled under the relentless assault. Most of the human evacuation ships had escaped, but the station itself was trapped. Its engines were too damaged to attempt a jump to hyperspace. The mysterious energy signature grew stronger. Zethkar's science teams worked constantly to identify its source, but their instruments gave conflicting readings. Whatever was approaching, it was big and moving fast. On the morning of the third day, alarms began blaring across the Vorthok flagship. "Admiral," his sensor operator called out. "Massive hyperspace emergence at the system's edge." The main screen shifted to show the outer system. Space itself seemed to tear open as something emerged from hyperspace. The energy discharge was so intense that several of Zethkar's ships had to adjust their sensors to avoid overload. When the brilliant light faded, Zethkar saw something that made his blood run cold. A ship hung in space where nothing had been moments before, but calling it a ship seemed inadequate. It was a fortress, a moving mountain of metal and weapons. The vessel was easily 3 times the size of his largest battlecruiser, and its design was utterly alien to Vorthok sensibilities. Where Vorthok ships were sleek and efficient, this human vessel was brutal and overwhelming. Its hull was covered in thick armor plating that looked like it could stop anything. Weapon batteries jutted out from every surface like the spines of some prehistoric beast. The ship's profile was all angles and edges, designed not for beauty but for war. "Sweet ancestors," his weapons officer whispered. "What is that thing?" Zethkar found his voice. "Get me a full sensor sweep. I want to know everything about that ship." The readings that came back made no sense. The vessel's hull was composed of materials their scanners could barely penetrate. Its energy signature suggested power sources that rivaled small stars. "And the weapons?" "Admiral," his tactical officer said, voice tight with fear. "I count over 500 individual weapon systems, and those are just the ones we can identify." A new transmission crackled across the fleet communications channel. This time, the human voice was calm and professional. "Vorthok vessels, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the UES Prometheus. You are in violation of human space and have committed acts of war against human civilians. You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw all forces from this system. This is your only warning." Zethkar stared at the massive human ship. He had conquered dozens of systems, faced countless enemies, but he had never seen anything like this. The Prometheus did not just look dangerous, it looked like it had been built for the sole purpose of destroying everything in its path. Still, he was a Vorthok admiral. He commanded over 200 ships. Numbers had to count for something. "Human vessel," he transmitted back, "you are outnumbered. Surrender now and your death will be quick." The response came immediately. "Admiral Zethkar, we know who you are. We know what you have done to other worlds. Today, that ends. You have 59 minutes. The transmission cut off. The Prometheus began moving toward them, accelerating slowly, but steadily. Even at this distance, Zethkar could see weapon systems powering up along its hull. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Zethkar felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. The human ship was alone against his entire fleet, yet he could not shake the feeling that he was the one in danger. He looked at his tactical display, showing the positions of all his ships. 200 vessels against 1. The odds were overwhelming in his favor, so why did he feel like he was about to make a terrible mistake?
Admiral Zethkar watched the human Dreadnought approach. The massive ship moved through space with surprising grace for something so large. Its engines burned with a blue-white fire that hurt to look at directly. "Time to intercept?" he asked his navigation officer. "At current speed, the human vessel will reach weapons range in 6 hours, Admiral." 6 hours. Zethkar had time to study this enemy and plan his attack. He activated his fleet communications. "All ship commanders, report to Tactical Channel 7. Within minutes, the holographic forms of his senior captains appeared around the bridge. These were experienced warriors who had fought beside him for years. If anyone could find a weakness in this human ship, it would be them. "Analysis reports," Zethkar ordered. Captain Vextar of the battlecruiser Doombringer spoke first. "Admiral, the human vessel is approximately 12 kilometers long and 4 kilometers wide. Our scans indicate massive armor plating, but we cannot determine exact thickness." "Weapons?" Zethkar asked. "Hundreds of them, sir. Many configurations. We do not recognize. Some appear to be energy weapons, others look like projectile systems. There are also what appear to be launch tubes for missiles or torpedoes." Another captain, Mordak of the Void Hunter, added his observations. "The power readings are troubling, Admiral. This single ship generates more energy than our entire fleet combined." Zethkar's mandibles clicked in thought. The humans were a young species. How had they built something so advanced? Theories on their technology level? Unknown, sir, Captain Vextar replied. Nothing in our intelligence report suggested humans possessed this level of military capability. Perhaps it is a trick, suggested Captain Coronel. A cargo vessel with false armor plating designed to make us think they are stronger than they are. Zethkar considered this possibility. It would be clever, and humans had shown some cunning in previous encounters, but the energy readings seemed real enough. We will test their resolve, he decided. Captain Cornell, take your cruiser squadron and probe their defenses. Do not commit to full attack. I want to see what this ship can do. Understood, Admiral. The holographic meeting ended. Zethkar watched as 8 light cruisers broke away from the main fleet and accelerated toward the human Dreadnought. These were fast, well-armed ships, each carrying a crew of 500. They would reveal what the humans were truly capable of. Captain Coronel led his squadron in a standard attack formation. As they approached the Prometheus, he opened fire with plasma cannons at maximum range. The bright energy beams crossed space and struck the human ship's hull. Nothing happened. The plasma fire that could melt through Vorthak armor simply disappeared against the human vessel's surface. There was no explosion, no visible damage. Not even a scorch mark. Impossible, Coronel transmitted. Our weapons had no effect. Continue the attack, Zethkar ordered. Get closer. The squadron moved in, firing continuously. Plasma beams, particle cannons, and fusion missiles all struck the human ship. The Prometheus absorbed the assault without slowing down or changing course. Then it returned fire. The first shot came from a weapon system near the human ship's bow. Zethkar watched in fascination as a brilliant blue beam lanced out across space. It struck the lead cruiser amidships. The Vorthak vessel simply vanished. One moment the Crimson Blade was there, firing its weapons and transmitting tactical data. The next moment, there was nothing but expanding gas and debris. What just happened? Zethkar demanded. His science officer was frantically checking his instruments. Admiral, the weapon appears to have completely disrupted the cruiser's molecular structure. It unmade it. Before anyone could respond, the human ship fired again. And again. Each shot was perfectly aimed. Each hit destroyed a cruiser instantly. The remaining ships of Cornell's squadron tried to retreat, but the human weapons reached out across impossible distances. In less than 3 minutes, 8 Vorthak cruisers and 4,000 soldiers were dead. The Prometheus continued its advance, apparently undamaged and unconcerned. How? Zethkar whispered. How did they do that? His tactical officer was studying the sensor readings with growing alarm. Admiral, the weapon that destroyed our ships. It appears to work by destabilizing the strong nuclear force. It literally tears matter apart at the atomic level. That is impossible technology. No known species has that capability. The humans do, sir. Zethkar felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Real, genuine terror. These humans had built weapons that violated everything he knew about physics and engineering. A new transmission came from the Prometheus. Admiral Zethkar, the calm female voice said, you have lost 8 ships. Withdraw now or lose them all. This time, there was no arrogance in the human captain's voice, no anger or hatred. She spoke like someone stating a simple fact, like someone who had absolute confidence in her ability to carry out the threat. Zethkar looked at his tactical display. He still had nearly 200 ships. The humans had one. Logic said he should continue the attack, but logic also said that 8 cruisers should not have been destroyed so easily. Weapons officer, he said slowly, what is our heaviest bombardment capability? If we concentrate the fire of all battle cruisers, we can deliver approximately 200 fusion warheads, simultaneously plus supporting plasma cannon fire. Do it. Target the human ship. Full bombardment. Sir, at this range, accuracy will be... Do it! The order went out across the fleet. Every heavy ship in the Third Fleet turned toward the Prometheus and prepared to fire. The combined firepower would be enough to destroy a small moon. Zethkar watched the countdown on his tactical screen. In 30 seconds, they would unleash hell itself on this human ship. The human vessel seemed to sense what was coming. Weapon systems along its hull began moving, tracking onto different Vorthak ships. Point defense systems activated, creating a deadly web of intersecting fire zones. 10 seconds to firing, his weapons officer announced. 5 seconds. Firing! Space lit up as 200 Vorthak ships fired at once. Fusion missiles streaked across the void, followed by countless energy beams. The combined assault would have been visible from nearby star systems. The attack reached the Prometheus and exploded in brilliant nuclear fire. For a moment, the human ship was hidden by a small artificial sun created by the overlapping warhead detonations. Target destroyed, someone reported. But as the fires faded, the Prometheus emerged from the inferno. Its hull showed no damage, no scorch marks, no missing sections. It looked exactly as it had before the attack. Impossible, Zethkar breathed. The human ship's response was swift and terrible. Weapon batteries along its hull opened fire simultaneously. But these were not the same weapons that had destroyed the cruisers. These were something else entirely. Zethkar watched in horror as his ships began dying. The human weapons reached out across space with deadly precision. Each shot struck a different target. Each target died. A battlecruiser exploded as something punched through its armor like paper. A destroyer simply broke apart, its hull unable to withstand forces it was never designed to face. A carrier burst into flames as its fighter bays detonated. Sato, humans were not just attacking, they were systematically destroying his fleet. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Zethkar ordered. Return fire. But his ships were too close together, and the human weapons were too accurate. Every few seconds, another Vorthak vessel died. The Prometheus did not even slow down. Zethkar realized with growing terror that this was not a battle. It was an execution. The humans were demonstrating their power, showing him exactly how helpless his fleet really was. In 10 minutes, he had lost 50 ships. Admiral, his communications officer said, voice shaking. Captain Velcor of the Night Reaper reports that human weapons are penetrating our shields as if they do not exist. And Captain Zurgal says his armor plating is useless against their particle beams. Zethkar watched another of his ships die. The humans had weapons that ignored shields and armor. They had defensive systems that could absorb nuclear bombardment. They had built a single ship that could destroy entire fleets. What kind of species did that? For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Zethkar began to understand that he was facing an enemy completely unlike any he had encountered before. The humans were not just another young species to be conquered, they were something far more dangerous. The Prometheus continued its deadly advance through the Vorthak fleet. Admiral Zethkar watched in growing horror as ship after ship fell to the human weapons. Each death was quick and absolute. No survivors, no escape pods, just sudden destruction. Science. "Officer!" he barked. "I need to understand their weapons. How are they cutting through our defenses?" The young Vorthak's tentacles were shaking as he worked at his station. "Admiral, I am detecting at least 7 different weapon types. The blue beams appear to be some form of particle accelerator. The projectile weapons are firing solid metal at incredible speeds." How incredible? Approximately 15% of light speed, sir. Zethkar's blood went cold. At those velocities, even a small piece of metal would hit with the force of a nuclear weapon. No armor could stop such an impact. What about the other weapons? The torpedo-like projectiles contain antimatter, Admiral. When they detonate, they release energy equivalent to our largest fusion bombs. And there are beam weapons that appear to channel nuclear explosions into directed energy streams. The admiral stared at his science officer. They are using nuclear explosions as weapons? Yes, sir. They call them Kasaba howitzers according to our translation systems. They detonate a nuclear device and focus the blast into a beam using magnetic fields. Zethkar felt his worldview crumbling. The Vorthak Empire prided itself on efficient, elegant warfare. They built ships that were fast, weapons that were precise, shields that were effective. Everything had a purpose, and nothing was wasted. Though humans had apparently decided that the best weapon was simply the most destructive one possible. "Admiral," his tactical officer called out, "the human ship is deploying something from its hull." On the main screen, panels along the Prometheus were opening. From the openings came small shapes that spread out in all directions. At first, Zethkar thought they were fighters or bombers. He was wrong. The objects were indeed small spacecraft, but they moved with purpose and intelligence that no piloted fighter could match. They were drones, each one the size of a Vorthak. Shuttle but armed like a destroyer. "Count?" Zethkar asked. "Still deploying, sir. Current count is over 300 and rising." The drone swarm spread out through space, each unit moving independently toward different targets. As they approached Vorthak ships, they began firing with miniature versions of the Prometheus's weapons. Captain Mordak's voice crackled over the communications channel. "Admiral! These drone things are shredding my destroyers. My weapons cannot track them. They are too fast and too small." Zethkar watched as the battle became even more one-sided. The drones attacked in coordinated groups, overwhelming his ship's defenses through sheer numbers and superior technology. A squadron of 6 drones would focus on a single Vorthak vessel, hitting it from multiple angles until its shields failed and its hull breached. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked quietly. 87 destroyed, Admiral. 15 more heavily damaged. Less than half his fleet remained, and the human ship was not even halfway through his formation yet. Zethkar activated his personal communicator and sent a direct transmission to the Prometheus. "Human captain," he said, his voice tight with controlled fear. "I am Admiral Zethkar of the Vorthak Third Fleet. You have made your point. What do you want?" The response came immediately. "Admiral, this is Captain Vasquez. I want you to withdraw from this system and never return. I want you to report to your superiors that humanity is not to be attacked again. I want you to understand what will happen if you ignore this warning. You have one ship against an empire of billions. Admiral, you are looking at one ship. Let me educate you about human military doctrine." The transmission continued, and Zethkar found himself listening to something that chilled him to his core. The Prometheus is what we call a Dreadnought. It is designed to fight entire fleets alone and win. Every system on this ship has 3 backups. Every weapon has been tested against every conceivable defense. Every armor plate has been built to stop everything we could think of. Captain Vasquez paused, then continued. "We do not build ships to be fast or elegant, Admiral. We build them to be absolutely unstoppable. The Prometheus has enough firepower to sterilize a planet. Its armor can withstand direct hits from stellar flares. Its power core could run a small city for a century." "Impossible," Zethkar whispered. "You are seeing the results, Admiral, and this is not our most powerful ship." Zethkar's hearts nearly stopped. "Not your most powerful?" "The Prometheus is a standard dreadnought. We have 12 others like it, and we are building more. We also have ships called planet crackers, which are designed to destroy entire worlds. We have fleet killers that carry enough firepower to sterilize solar systems. We have ships that exist purely to end civilizations." The Admiral stared at the screen showing the massive human vessel. It was still methodically destroying his ships, its weapons never missing, its armor never failing. And this was considered standard? "Why?" he asked. "Why build such weapons?" "Because, Admiral, humans learned something very important early in our history. If you want peace, you must be prepared for war. If you want to protect your people, You must be able to destroy anyone who threatens them. Another of Zethkar's ships exploded. The drones continued their deadly work. We did not seek conflict with your empire, Captain Vasquez continued. We tried diplomacy. We offered trade agreements. We proposed peaceful coexistence. Your response was to attack our civilians. The empire expands. It is our nature. And it is our nature to defend what is ours. You have learned what that means. Zethkar looked at his tactical display. He had started this battle with over 200 ships. Now he had fewer than 90, and they were dying rapidly. The human ship had not even been damaged. Science officer, he said quietly. Analysis of the human armor. It appears to be a composite material, Admiral. Multiple layers of different substances. Some layers absorb energy, others deflect kinetic impacts. The outer surface seems to repair itself automatically. They're shields. They do not appear to use shields as we understand them, sir. Their defensive systems work differently. Instead of energy barriers, they use layers of electromagnetic fields that disrupt incoming weapons before they reach the hull. Zethkar realized he was looking at a completely different philosophy of warfare. The Vorthak built ships to be effective against other Vorthak ships. They designed weapons to penetrate Vorthak defenses. The humans had built their ship to fight everyone. Every weapon system, every defensive measure, every tactical decision had been made with the assumption that they would face unknown enemies with unknown capabilities, and they had prepared accordingly. Admiral, his communications officer announced, incoming transmission from the human ship. They are broadcasting on all fleet frequencies. Put it through. Captain Vasquez's voice filled the bridge of every surviving Vorthak ship. Vorthak fleet, this is your final warning. You have seen what one human dreadnought can do. We have many more. We have weapons you have not seen yet. We have defenses you cannot penetrate. Leave now, or face complete destruction. The transmission paused. Admiral Zethkar, you have 30 seconds to issue a withdrawal order. After that, we will assume you have chosen death. Zethkar looked around his bridge. His officers stared back at him with fear in their eyes. These were warriors who had conquered star systems, soldiers who had never known defeat. Now they were learning what it meant to face an enemy that had prepared for everything. 20 seconds left. Another ship died to the human weapons. 15 seconds. The drones were now attacking his flagship's escorts. 10 seconds. Zethkar closed his eyes and made the hardest decision of his military career. All ships, he transmitted to his fleet, prepare for immediate withdrawal from the system. The word withdrawal hung in the air like a curse. Admiral Zethkar had never spoken it before in his entire military career. Around him, his bridge crew stared in shock. The Vorthak Third Fleet did not retreat. They conquered, or they died trying. But as another of his battle cruisers exploded under the relentless fire from the human drones, Zethkar realized that pride was a luxury he could no longer afford. Belay that order. The voice came from Captain Vextar over the fleet communications channel. Admiral, we cannot retreat. The Empire will see us as cowards. Other voices joined in from across the fleet. We still outnumber them. The ancestors will curse us. Better to die with honor. Zethkar felt the weight of tradition pressing down on him. For 3 centuries, the Vorthak Empire had expanded across the galaxy through superior firepower and absolute determination. They had never retreated from an inferior force, but he had also never faced anything like the Prometheus. Captain Vextar, he said slowly, how many ships do you have left in your battle group? 17, Admiral, but you started with 36. Captain Mordak, your status? 12 ships remaining, sir. You had 28. Zethkar looked at his tactical display. The numbers told a story he could not ignore. In less than 1 hour, we have lost over half our fleet to a single enemy vessel. Then we make them pay for every ship, Captain Vexitar snarled. All remaining vessels, prepare for ramming speed. We will tear that human ship apart with our hulls." The idea spread across the fleet communications like wildfire. It was desperate, but it was also traditionally Vorthak. If their weapons could not pierce the enemy's defenses, they would use their ships as weapons. "All ships, this is Admiral Zethkar," he announced. "Prepare for coordinated ramming attack. Target the human vessel from all angles simultaneously. They cannot stop us all." The remaining ships of the Third Fleet began to turn toward the Prometheus. Engines roared to full power as nearly 90 vessels accelerated toward the massive, human Dreadnought. Captain Vasquez's voice came over the communications channel one more time. "Admiral, you are making a mistake. Stand down immediately." "We are Vorthak," Zethkar replied. "We do not surrender." "Then you will die." The human ship's response was immediate and terrifying. Weapon systems that had been dormant suddenly came online. The Prometheus bristled with new defensive measures that Zethkar had not even known existed. Point defense cannons emerged from hidden positions all along the hull. These were not the massive ship-killing weapons the humans had used before. These were smaller, faster-firing systems designed for a different purpose entirely. The first Vorthak ship to come within ramming range was the destroyer Swift Death. As it accelerated toward the Prometheus, dozens of point defense weapons tracked onto it and opened fire. The destroyer simply evaporated, not destroyed, not blown apart, evaporated. The intense energy beams struck the ship's hull and turned solid metal into expanding gas in seconds. But Zethkar had committed nearly 90 ships to the attack. Surely some would get through. The second wave of ships met the same fate. And the third. The human point defenses fired continuously, each shot perfectly aimed, each hit completely fatal. "They are destroying us faster than we can approach," Captain Mordak reported, his voice filled with terror. Zethkar watched in growing horror as ship after ship died before they could even get close to the human vessel. The point defense systems were too fast, too accurate, too deadly. Then, the Prometheus deployed something new. Panels along the ship's hull opened again, but this time what emerged was not drones. These were larger objects, each one the size of a Vorthak fighter, but moving with impossible speed and agility. "What are those?" Zethkar demanded. His science officer's voice was barely a whisper. "They appear to be autonomous interceptors, Admiral. Unmanned fighters designed to stop ramming attacks. The interceptors spread out from the Prometheus like a deadly cloud. They moved faster than any piloted craft Zethkar had ever seen, accelerating and turning with forces that would have killed any organic crew. They began hunting his ships. The interceptors did not fire traditional weapons. Instead, they simply rammed into the Vorthak vessels at incredible speeds. But these were not suicide attacks. The interceptors were built like living missiles, designed to punch through armor and explode inside enemy ships. Captain Zurgal's voice screamed over the communications channel. "They are inside my ship. These things punch through my hull and are destroying us from within." Zethkar watched his tactical display as red icons began disappearing at an alarming rate. His ramming attack was failing catastrophically. The humans had prepared for this tactic too. "All ships, abort attack," he ordered. "Repeat, abort ramming attack." But it was too late. The surviving ships were too close to the Prometheus, too committed to their attack runs. The human point defenses and interceptors continued their deadly work. In the space of 10 minutes, Zethkar lost another 40 ships. He now had fewer than 50 vessels left from a fleet of over 200, and the Prometheus was completely undamaged. "Admiral," his communications officer said, his voice shaking. "Incoming transmission from the human ship." Captain Vasquez appeared on the main screen. For the first time, Zethkar could see her clearly. She was younger than he had expected. With short dark hair and intense brown eyes, she looked tired but determined. "Admiral Zethkar," she said, "you have now lost 3/4 of your fleet. Your ramming attack failed because we designed our defenses specifically to stop such tactics. Every strategy you have tried, we have countered." "How?" Zethkar asked. "How did you prepare for everything?" "Because, Admiral, this is what humans do. We study war. We analyze every possible scenario. We prepare for every conceivable enemy. The Prometheus was not built to fight Vorthak ships. It was built to fight any ship ever designed." The human captain paused, then continued. "Your empire has existed for centuries, conquering species that built ships like yours. You have never faced an enemy that assumed you would adapt, that prepared for your strategies, that built weapons specifically to counter your tactics. We have the largest fleet in the galaxy. Numbers mean nothing if your ships cannot fight effectively. Admiral, I could destroy your remaining vessels in the next 5 minutes, but I am going to make you an offer instead." Zethkar felt hope flicker in his chest. "What offer?" "Surrender now, and I will allow your surviving ships to leave this system. Return to your empire. Tell them what happened here. Make sure they understand that humanity is not to be attacked again." "And if we refuse?" Captain Vasquez's expression hardened. "Then I will demonstrate why the Prometheus carries enough firepower to destroy planets. I will show you what happens when humans stop holding back." Zethkar looked at his tactical display one more time. 47 ships remaining. 47 ships from a fleet that had been the pride of the Empire. The human ship hung in space before him, massive and threatening. Its weapons were still active, still tracking his vessels. Its defenses had proven impenetrable, and according to Captain Vasquez, the humans had 12 more ships just like it. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "long-range sensors are detecting additional hyperspace distortions. Something else is coming." "More human ships?" "Unknown, sir. But the energy signatures are similar to the Prometheus." Zethkar closed his eyes. If more human dreadnoughts arrived, his fleet would be completely destroyed. Every ship, every crew member, every hope of victory would be lost. For the first time in Vorthak history, an admiral of the Empire faced a choice between honor and survival. He chose survival. "All ships," he transmitted to his fleet. "This is Admiral Zethkar. We surrender to the human forces." The words felt like poison in his mouth, but they were the only words that would save his remaining soldiers. On the screen, Captain Vasquez nodded grimly. "Wise choice, Admiral. Now let me tell you exactly what message you will carry back to your empire." The bridge of Admiral Zethkar's flagship fell silent as Captain Vasquez's words sank in. Surrender. The word tasted bitter in the Admiral's mouth, but it was the only choice that would keep his remaining soldiers alive. "All Vorthak vessels," Captain Vasquez announced over the fleet communications, "power down your weapons and maintain current positions. Any ship that attempts to flee or attack will be destroyed immediately." Zethkar watched as his remaining ships complied. Weapon systems went dark across what remained of the mighty Third Fleet. It was the most humiliating moment in 3 centuries of Vorthak military history. "Admiral," Captain Vasquez continued, "I am going to explain something to you. Something your empire needs to understand before it makes any more mistakes." The human captain's image filled the main screen. Behind her, Zethkar could see the bridge of the Prometheus. It was larger than his own command center, filled with more tactical stations and weapons controls than he had ever imagined. "Your intelligence reports told you that humanity was a young, weak species. Your analysts were wrong. They saw what we wanted them to see. You deceived us? We allowed you to draw your own conclusions. When your scouts encountered our outer colonies, they saw civilian ships and defensive stations. They saw exactly what we wanted them to see, a peaceful species that would be easy to conquer." Zethkar felt a chill run through his body. The colonies were traps? The colonies were real, Admiral. Those were real people living real lives. But they were also early warning systems. Every time your ships appeared in our space, we knew about it. We tracked your movements. We studied your tactics. We learned everything about your military capabilities. The human captain paused, letting this information sink in. While you were gathering intelligence on our civilian populations, we were preparing for war. Every human colony you scouted was also studying you. That is impossible. Our stealth technology is inferior to our sensor networks. Admiral, we detected your ships long before you knew we were aware of them. We have been watching the Vorthak Empire for over 2 years. Zethkar's mind reeled. Everything his intelligence division had reported was wrong. The humans had not been caught off guard by the invasion. They had been preparing for it. While your empire believed we were defenseless, Captain Vasquez continued, we were building ships like the Prometheus. We were developing weapons specifically, designed to counter your technology. We were creating defensive systems that could stop your attacks. How many ships like this do you have? Zethkar asked, though he dreaded the answer. Enough. Admiral, I want you to understand something about human military doctrine. We do not build weapons to fight wars. We build weapons to end them. On the tactical display, Zethkar could see the massive human ship. Its weapon systems were still active, still tracking his vessels. Even in victory, the humans remained ready for battle. The Prometheus was not designed to defeat the Vorthak Empire, Captain Vasquez said. It was designed to defeat any empire. Every system on this ship was built with the assumption that we would face enemies more advanced than ourselves. You prepared for enemies stronger than the Vorthak? Admiral, in human history, the greatest danger always came from underestimating our opponents, so we decided to never make that mistake. Every human warship is built to fight enemies we have never encountered, using tactics we have never seen. Zethkar looked at his remaining ships. 47 vessels from a fleet of over 200. The human strategy had worked perfectly. What do you want from us? He asked quietly. I want you to carry a message back to your empire. I want you to explain exactly what happened here. I want your leaders to understand that humanity is not a species to be conquered. Captain Vasquez's expression became deadly serious. Tell your high command that we have 12 dreadnoughts like the Prometheus. Tell them we are building more. Tell them that if they attack human space again, we will not stop at defending ourselves. You would attack the Empire? Admiral, Prometheus carries enough firepower to sterilize planets. Our planet crackers can destroy entire worlds. Our fleet killers can eliminate everything in a star system. If your empire forces us to war, we will end your empire. The threat hung in the air like a death sentence. Zethkar had seen what one human ship could do to his fleet. The idea of facing 12 of them, or more, was terrifying beyond words. But we do not want war, Captain Vasquez continued. Humans prefer peace. We would rather trade with your empire than fight it. We would rather be allies than enemies. Then why build such weapons? Because, Admiral, the galaxy is a dangerous place. There are species out there that view peace as weakness. There are empires that see diplomacy as surrender. We build weapons, like this, so that we never have to use them. Zethkar thought about the battles he had fought, the worlds he had conquered. The Vorthak Empire expanded because they could. They took what they wanted because no one could stop them. Until now. Your surviving ships will be escorted to the edge of human space, Captain Vasquez announced. You will not return. You will not send scouts. You will not attempt any further incursions into our territory. And if we do, then you will face the full might of the human fleet. Admiral, this was a demonstration. A single ship showing restraint. If you attack us again, we will not hold back. The communication channel went quiet for a moment. Then Captain Vasquez spoke again, her voice softer, but no less determined. Admiral Zethkar, I know this is difficult for you. Your empire has never been defeated. Your military has never retreated. But today, you learned something important. What is that? You learned that there are species in the galaxy that are stronger than you. Species that have prepared for war more thoroughly than you. Species that can destroy you if you force them to. Zethkar nodded slowly. The lesson was clear, even if it was bitter. Tell your leaders, Captain Vasquez continued, that humanity offers them a choice. They can accept that we are equals and negotiate with us in good faith. Or they can continue to see us as enemies and face the consequences. What consequences? The next time Vorthak ships attack human civilians, we will not send one dreadnought to defend them. We will send our entire fleet to your home worlds. We will end your empire in a single campaign. The transmission ended. Zethkar stared at the blank screen for a long moment, then turned to his communications officer. Send a message to High Command. Tell them the Third Fleet has suffered heavy casualties and is withdrawing from human space. Sir, should I mention the surrender? Zethkar considered this. Honor demanded that he report the truth. But survival demanded that his empire understand the real danger they faced. Yes, he said finally. Tell them everything. Tell them we were defeated by a single human ship. Tell them that humanity is not to be underestimated. As his remaining ships began their journey back to Vorthak space, Admiral Zethkar began composing his final report. It would be the most important document in the history of the Empire. In it, he would explain how the mighty Third Fleet had been humbled by creatures they had dismissed as primitive. He would describe weapons that defied understanding and defenses that seemed impenetrable. Most importantly, he would recommend that the Vorthak Empire never again attack humanity. The report would end with words that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. The humans do not build ships to win battles. They build ships to end wars. They do not seek conquest. They seek to make conquest impossible. We attacked them believing they were weak. We learned that they are the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever produced, not because they are evil, but because they are prepared. The High Command must understand humanity is not our enemy because we chose to attack them. They became our superior because they chose to be ready for us. We are fortunate they showed mercy. We must ensure they never need to show their full strength. As the broken remains of his fleet limped home, Admiral Zethkar looked back at the human ship one last time. The Prometheus hung in space like a metal mountain, its weapons still active, still watching, and somewhere in the depths of space, 11 more ships just like it waited for their orders. The age of Vorthak expansion was over. The age of humanity had begun.